Hi friends, today I want to answer one of the most pressing questions I hear from aspiring authors, which is, how do I find an editor? So, I am an editor, I've been an editor for 20 years, and I actually know the answer to this question. But I want to tell you there's 4 different steps to take in finding an editor that's appropriate for your book. So that is what this video is about. I'm going to dive right in. The very first step in finding an editor is what you're doing right now, educating yourself. It's extremely important for a new author to understand what it means to have an editor, the different types of editing that are out there, what stage of the journey is a good match for what type of editing and what type of editor. So you're taking the first step right now by watching this video, and I want to say congratulations. Specifically, there are 4 different types of editing that you are going to want to look into in the process of editing your book. The first 2 happen before the book is ready to go. They're in the process of getting the book ready. The second 2 are what we call technical editing, which should only happen after you have a final draft in hand, okay? So the first 2 are developmental editing, which is a big picture, global type editing, looking at whether the chapters are working together, looking at whether you answer all the questions a reader is going to have over the course of the book, whether your story actually comes to a very satisfying completion, etc. That's developmental editing. Then after the developmental edit, you'll want a line edit. This is where someone goes in and does the line by line art of the sentence. They want to make sure that you don't have grammatical mistakes and that the sentences are really flowing and easy to read, that you don't have an extra word in there that you don't need, that you haven't skipped over, words that actually should be there, etc. So it's really the line by line, sentence by sentence edit. At that point, once those revisions have been made and you've approved them, it's time for you to move into technical editing. Theoretically, at that point, you have what we consider to be a final draft that can then go to what we call copy editing. Copy editing is where consistency and formatting are key. And this is one of the places that separates a traditionally published book from most self-published books. Most self-published authors don't really see the point of this edit. It's kind of one of those invisible edits unless you don't have it. If you don't have it, your readers will know and they will say, wow, this book wasn't very well edited, because you're going to have little mistakes in there that shouldn't be there, and you're going to have formatting inconsistencies. An example being, I was just reading a book the other day, a self-published book. The content is excellent, but I was so distracted by the fact that depending on which page we were on, the dashes between words were either one long dash, which is what we call an M dash, or 2 smaller dashes next to each other. There was no consistency in the dashes in the book, and it drove me crazy. Now, granted, I'm an editor. Maybe it doesn't drive you crazy, but that's the kind of thing that gets caught by a copy editor. It's very, very important to have the book copy edited before you set it into type. So then if you're going to go self-publish the book, you will then want to make sure absolutely you have at least 1 round of proofreading once the book is set into type. It is so important. This is what separates books that have typos from books that only have 1 or 2 typos. Every book's going to have a typo. Just expect it. Know it's coming. But do you have a typo on every page, or do you have like 1 per chapter? It's a huge difference to the reading experience, and it really is what gets sorted out once the book is set into type and it's proofread. Okay, so those are the 4 different types of editing. You can do a deeper dive on any one of them. I talk about all of them extensively in chapter 7 of my book, The Book You Were Born to Write, which is sitting behind me. And I have videos and blogs that lay out all of this. So you should be able to find tons of information. And you can ask yourself, where am I in the process? This is the second question to ask when you're researching. Are you writing a book proposal, or are you writing a full manuscript? This is a big difference of whether you think you want to try for a traditional publisher. You're probably going to need a proposal. If you're going to go straight to self-publishing, you can skip the proposal and just write a manuscript. But you need to kind of know which of those places that you're in before you can really look for an editor. Okay, second step in finding an editor is to put together your own list of the qualifications that you would like to see in your editor. Things that are important to me and things that we use when we hand pick the right editor for the right author at my company, KN Literary Arts, is is this editor somebody who's personally interested in and has experience in the genre that you're writing in? So if you're writing a novel, you need an editor who edits novels. If you're writing poetry, you want an editor who edits poetry. Now, I'm mostly talking about the content editing here, the developmental and the line edit, because these are where we work on the art of the book. You need to have deep experience with that genre. When it comes to copy editing and proofreading, you don't necessarily need to find somebody who's been in your genre, because they're really working with the technical technicalities of the formatting and the words, right? And the grammar, which is going to be the same across different genres. But when you're talking about a content editor who's helping you develop the ideas that you're going to have in the book, you want to make sure that they know your genre, not just that they've experienced it in the workplace, but I think ideally that they love to read that genre. It's one of their favorites. So that's one of the pieces of the qualification list I want you to be looking for. Second is their actual experience. How many books have they edited? Do they edit books for a living? This is what I would love for you. I'd love for anyone who wants to put their book in the world in its finest form to work with an editor who actually edits for a living. That's not something, it's not like your friend's daughter's boyfriend who just graduated with a BA in English, right? That person doesn't have the depth of experience of working on book after book after book that I want you to have when you're walking your path of the book journey, because it's really important to have somebody who has deep experience and understands you and understands what you're looking for. Then the next qualification is price and also the payment plan that they're asking for. So I definitely recommend finding someone who does staged payments. When you're working on a book together, different people have very, very different senses of what works and what doesn't. You can really love the editor at the outset, but then, after the first piece of the editing work, think this person doesn't really feel like the right person anymore. And I want you to be able to have a way out without having paid them everything already. You may owe them a kill fee of some sort because they've set aside time in their schedule for you, and that is totally justifiable and very standard in the industry. But definitely don't pay all the money up front. Wait until you had some experience together and stage those payments. That's my guideline. That's the way we do it at KN Literary, because I want everybody to be happy with the process. It's very, very important to me that you love the editor that we pair you with, and I want you to have that no matter where you find your editor. And then of course the price, I don't want it to break your budget. I want to make sure that it fits in with your life and with the money that you have to give and to use for this project. I don't want you paying 3 to 4 to 5 times as much as you had budgeted. So figure out in yourself how much money you would like to spend and put toward this project. Now, this video is not going to go into what you should expect to pay. I'm going to be addressing that in a future video, but I do want to talk to you about not breaking the bank. I want to make sure that you choose an editor who's in your price range, somebody whose fees are a good match for what you would like to invest and what you can expect to make back from the process of the book. Now, sometimes the book you're writing is not actually motivated financially, and you are not actually expecting to make money back. And that is totally fine and amazing if you've got that ability. But for those of you who are using the book to help build your business, just know that the investment you're putting in now will get returned to you someday, maybe not in book sales. Books are a very low price point item. It's actually quite difficult to make a lot of money with book sales. But putting your book out in the world is a wonderful way to get more people to know about you and more people to come to whatever your primary offering is, whether it's retreats or one-on-one services or groups or online courses, whatever it is, you can expect to have more people taking you up on those offers once your book is in the world. So just try to figure out how many new clients would it take to make this amount of money, and just say, yeah, I do think I would probably end up with 2 more clients a month once my book is out, and I could then make back the editorial costs within 3 or 4 months, whatever it might be, right? But just know what your budget is and feel good about it. That's one of the qualifications that I want you to take into consideration. And finally, I think it's really important to like your editor. You're going to be working closely with them. It's a deep, almost intimate relationship, and I want you to know that their personality is a good match for yours. And also, if you know who you are as a writer and that you maybe need someone who's going to be a little bit hard on you and going to actually push you, great. Find someone who will do that. If you're somebody who has a really hard time showing your work to other people, and you're going to be crushed if you don't get just love and praise out the wazoo, make sure you choose someone who's really heavy on the love and praise. It's important in the outset. So make this qualifications list for yourself before you go looking for the editor. Okay, step 3 is to go research editors and find editors. So where can you find them? Well, actually, editors are coming out your ears. There's tons of places where you can find editors. But I'm going to start with the places that I think are the best. The first one is, if you have a friend who's written a book and loved working with their editor, there is no better qualification than that. You are getting firsthand knowledge that this person is somebody who's easy to work with, who's worked well with a friend of yours, who they can recommend. Recommendations are huge when it comes to editing because obviously anybody can throw out a shingle and say they're an editor. I want you to make sure you have someone who has qualifications and has done this work for a long time, and actually that you can point to somebody who says, hey, this is a good editor, because otherwise you may end up with somebody who has never really edited before and who nobody really has liked working with. That is not ideal, right? So number one would be a recommendation from a friend. Number two would be a recommendation from an editorial company like KN Literary Arts. So we handpick our editors, we vet them, we work with them one project at a time, make sure we really love them, and then if we love them, man, we load them up, because it's not easy to find editors who are have all those qualifications, the right personality, the right experience, the work within our budget, etc. So it's the kind of thing where once you find an editor who's great, you really hold on to them. So the editorial companies that are out there like KN Literary, and you can just Google that and see what you find, you're going to find people who are likely tried and true editors who've been used numerous times and who the company can really stand behind. It's a type of recommendation. If you don't have a friend who can recommend somebody, go to a company you trust and have them recommend somebody. The bonus with working with an editorial company like ours, or any number of those that are out there, is that you have more than one person to turn to. So if for some reason the relationship is not going well with your editor, you have someone you can call and say, hey, this isn't really going well, can you step in? At KN Literary, you always have your matchmaker with you from start to finish. You can call that person anytime and say, hey, something's not working here. And if you've ever hired a contractor for something and had no recourse when things went wrong, you know how much of a gift it is to have someone you can call who's going to listen and is going to make it right. So that's an editorial company. You can Google them or come to knliterary.com to see more about us. Finding freelancers. Obviously, there are numerous people out there who freelance edit for a living. And you can find them on one of my favorite places to look for it, a place where really book industry folks advertise themselves, people who really have deep experience in the book business, is on publishersmarketplace.com. Publishersmarketplace.com, an amazing site full of tons of information. If you want to be on the inside of book publishing in the United States, Publishers Marketplace is a place that you're going to want to pay that monthly $25 fee or get their free services. But they've got a wonderful listing of editors there. Definitely recommend them. Obviously, you can look at Craigslist, any place that has advertisements for services. You're going to find book editors. Again, ask them for their references if they're not coming recommended by a company. Make sure that they have actually edited. They do edit books for a living. And the same goes for a place like Upwork.com, UPWORK.com, Upwork. That's another place where freelancers can hang out a shingle, and it sort of caters more to people who are doing kind of work like book editing. It's not just sort of a free-for-all like Craigslist. It's really specific. And Upwork, again, ask them for the recommendations. Make sure that they have a list of books that's quite long and lengthy, that they've got the experience you're looking for. Okay, finally, step 4 of finding an editor is to interview that editor. Have a conversation with them. Feel into whether you jive with each other, whether you have that vibe, right? It's important to get along with that person. It is no shame if you don't get along with somebody, Everybody's different and we all have sort of different personalities. It's really, really important to make sure you feel good with that editor. So be sure to interview them, talk to them about what the process is going to look like, how they envision editing. Are they going to do a chapter at a time? Are they going to do half of the book first and then send it to you? Do you want them to do a few pages first so the two of you can sort of work out together whether the edit is too light or too heavy, etc.? Have the plan in advance. And then once you pick them, make sure the two of you together put together an editorial calendar for yourselves. Make sure you know when you're going to expect to get content back from them and when you need to turn it around. So you can have it in your calendar, you can have time set aside to review, and then hopefully they will turn in their content to you on time and you'll turn it around to them on time, and then you'll get the project finished on time. So those are the 4 steps. Educate yourself, make a qualification list for yourself of the things that you would like, research editors that actually fit those qualifications, and then interview anybody that you're considering hiring. So there you go. My 4 steps to finding an editor. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that you find just the right editor for you. And of course, I would love it if we could help you at knliterary.com. You can have a free call with an editor anytime you want. Just go over there and schedule a call. And be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I am just giving you everything that I know about books and book publishing, and I would love it if you wanted to join. And that way you'll know always when the new information comes out. All right, I hope you're doing a wonderful job on your book this week. Sit down and write. I'm going to do the same, and I'll look forward to talking to you again next week.